Welcome to Positive Filter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career with a little self-help around the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope that what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. Hey boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, it's Philip Wilkerson back with another episode of Positive Filter. Positive Filter, aka Ill Phil, aka the illest, aka I got a tattoo of Austin on my leg, aka I got 2 kids. I don't know how this happened to me, aka I still have a job. But I'm joined by a very special guest, and I'll let her introduce herself and her aliases. Go ahead.
Hello, I'm Victoria Suarez. I don't have any aliases.
No aliases.
Well, actually, they call me Mouth from the South, some people, because I don't stop talking.
There you go. See, that's one. You already have one, a.k.a. Mouth from the South.
There we go.
So we work together, but it's not about how we do work. This is extra stuff. Victoria is, I would say, the queen of the gift of gab. She can talk to anyone. She can sell water to a well. She can. She's cooler than a polar bear's toenails. That's an Outcast reference, if you didn't know.
I definitely did not.
But in regards to that, there's one of the things that was always been remarkable about Victoria for me when starting my job was her level of confidence and confidence in herself, being able to speak to anyone. In regards to just talking to people, for me, I say I could talk to everybody in an informal setting, but professionally. Victoria could talk to anyone in regards to like selling things, promoting things, and what she can offer. And I always found that confidence admirable and something I wanted to replicate. And I said, Victoria, you're very confident. How are you so confident? And then she went on this whole spiel about her book and things she wanted to do. And I said, you know what? Stop. I don't want to hear about it no more because we had to get all these gems on the podcast. So, Victoria, for the listeners that don't have any clue who you are, I want you to just give us a quick synopsis of who you are, but then we're going to talk about where you get this confidence from.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Phil, for inviting me on. I really appreciate it. And the truth is, for many months, I've been telling Phil I'm going to come to be a part of his podcast. And so he's a really good motivator. He's asked me many times in the hallway or just sent a text message at night. To make sure that I'm doing the work I need to do to be able to be a part of this podcast. So thanks for staying on me. I really appreciate that.
Maggie calls me that aggressive friend, which is pretty true.
And many of us need it.
I call it assertiveness, but we could call it aggressive. But go ahead.
And I wouldn't be here talking with the audience without that, so I appreciate it. So a little bit about me. Right out of college, I was invited to be a part of an organization called Making It Count. It's a group of international speakers, and we went all over the country, Canada, Puerto Rico, etc. And we were trying to motivate students to come to college and get their career on track. And so ever since that time, when I was doing a good job as a presenter, that's when I kind of realized that people do look up to me and they do look to me for guidance. And so I think that's when I started to develop that confidence, being able to stand up and speak and deliver, and also hearing people say they took the advice. And so I think that's probably where it started.
Yeah.
And so years later, I'm in academia. People come to us, as you know, Phil, for advice. They come to you for guidance, whether that's at work or at home. And so I think that probably just continues to be a part of who we are and what we're all about.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm slowly trickling into the space of talking in front of an audience. I think what's really helped me, the confidence of speaking to an audience, is doing this podcast. And then I realized in work, I talk to audiences all the time, like in presentations and such. But I never really did it, what I say, like formally, like I never like did a keynote or something like that. And so you saw recently I've been trying to force myself into more structured opportunities to talk, like joining Toastmasters or actually going to do TED Talks. And, it's a different aspect of just doing presentations and then actually doing a well-prepared speech in front of people. You said you did it with your first job out of college. Was that more of a presentation style or a public speaking style? Oh, I'm saying public speaking style. I meant like...
Understood. So what it was, I think maybe I'll say it's a little bit of both. This is going back to 03, 04, 05, before YouTube.
Yeah.
And of course, we already had PowerPoint, but we were not allowed to use it. So we had a booklet that we'd pass out to students who are 14, 15 years old, and we had 50 minutes to engage them. So it was
Oh,
us
yeah.
and the booklet in their hand. And we would jump and we would dance and we would sing and we would run up and down on stage. And we managed to hold the audience's attention. And believe me, they would let you know if they weren't paying attention.
But yeah, so it was like, it was kind of a PowerPoint curriculum-driven presentation, but you had to freestyle it. Is that correct?
Exactly. So, for example, one of my territories was rural Pennsylvania. So,
Yeah.
literally, I'm parking my car outside next to sheep and goats.
Yeah.
And then the next day, I would be in the Bronx. And so, you can imagine those are two different audiences.
Yes.
So, just understanding that when I'm speaking to different students with different needs and different expectations, trying to tailor my approach. But yeah, you're right.
So I mean, with that being said, when did you say, aha, like I'm super confident I could do this, or like were you nervous?
I was so nervous. And so the first time I actually went up there, I had no recollection of what I had said because I
Yeah.
was standing in front of 200 students and I just-
200. So you were already like, so our presentations at work, you know, we average small classrooms.
True.
I think the most here on campus I've talked to was like a group of 100 parents and kids, like 100.
Mhm.
And then I think the largest audience I've talked to was 600 kids of a whole high school junior class.
Yes.
But that was like different aspects. But like you're like my first, like they threw you to an audience of 200 people off the break.
Yes.
Okay, go back. Okay,
And
that's
actually,
crazy.
in order to be a presenter, well, actually, in order to order a presentation or have us come out and talk, you needed to have a minimum of 100. We wouldn't show up with less than that. And then some of us were qualified to speak up to 1,000. But
Lord.
I never qualified. I only qualified to 500.
Oh, only 500. Okay.
But you know,
only.
it's like having kids.
like only Jesus. So and you're right. Like you're like, oh, I only qualified for 500. I bet there's someone out there, someone's hands is already sweating just hearing the word. I had to talk to 500 people. Just the image of it.
Sure. But again, it's like having kids, right? So you have one, it's a big deal. You have two, it's a big deal. Well, if you had 8, what's 9, right? What's one more person? What's one more person? So once you're at 100, once you're at 200, what's another 50 kids at that point?
I mean, ask the Duggars. I guess they know the answer to that. But I think there is a difference for certain people, but maybe, you know, certain personality styles lend themselves to talkers. Like I said, for an instance, now I could talk to anyone one-on-one.
True.
And I could talk to anyone informally, right?
Sure.
Informally. But then when there was this expectation that you need to like deliver a certain message or that you need to be professional, you know, I'm putting in air quotes, that's when I started getting nervous. So for instance, I finally feel comfortable in my position talking to people professionally is because I don't look at them professionally. That makes sense. I'm just talking to human beings.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And then in regards to public speaking in front of an audience, I don't look at it as talking to someone different. I just look at it to talking to, you know, in my mind, I'm having one-on-one conversations just with 100 one-on-ones. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just take the same mindset. I'm having a conversation with someone and just say, okay, I'm going to try to transport that comfort regardless, as you say, what's 1, what's 2, what's 100, what's 50. Because at that point, I'm just trying to connect to the people.
True.
The only difference between that and in the, you know, a normal conversation is that when it's one-on-one, you can engage. When you're looking at an audience, ideally, you don't want them all talking or yelling at you while you're talking. Like, you know, that's rude.
Sure. And,
Like,
and I've seen you present before, and I feel that even when you're speaking to me one-on-one, that's pretty identical to what you're doing in front of an audience. So I've seen you, and I believe what you're saying to be true.
But I didn't start out like that. That, you know, I used to think that they were totally different. There are different styles, but I used to put the public speaking in front of people on a pedestal,
True.
if that makes sense.
No, that's-
Like it's different. But then if you think about it, like if you're already a good communicator one-on-one, just try to think what makes you a good communicator one-on-one, and then exacerbate that. Like, because then you still have the things like I'm still having delivery. I'm still working on the message and the content.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if I was talking to you one-on-one, what's 3 things I want you to leave knowing about me or something like that? You just have to say that to a whole audience. Like, you know, I try to think now when I talk to people in regards to podcasting or an audience that's like, yo, if I only had 5 minutes of their time, what was the main thing I want them to take away? You know, rather than fluff, like, you know, like come to career services or something, right?
Mhm.
That's the one message. If anything you heard today, or, you know, the confidence where we're going to talk about this episode.
Yes.
If anyone skips through this episode and they go from the beginning of the episode to the end of the episode. They don't even listen to the middle. What's the one thing we want to drive home would be the confidence. So I kind of try to think about that when I talk to people.
No, understood. No, that's a really good point. And so I feel that there's some conversation regarding confidence and whether or not it's misplaced, right? So,
Yes.
And that's one thing. There was a big push towards everyone becoming confident in the 70s and 80s, and so now
Yeah.
we have a lot of people that are overly confident. And I just want to caution everyone. Sometimes we still need to hone our skills, still need to practice. So we just can't always walk around with a lot of confidence. I read an internet blog over the weekend, and it said, because I'm getting ready to travel internationally, and it was saying about like how can you tell someone's an American when they travel?
They stunt. Yeah.
It said nobody else in the world walks as confidently in the wrong direction as an American. So
Hey, I mean, I'm thinking about that too. Like I stunt, you might be stunting in the wrong direction then. But I get what you're saying, and also to add to that, I liked what you said. You said there's a difference between there's confidence with humility, confidence with awareness of your own skills. So like, I may be confident, but I ain't so confident. I think like that I could beat Michael Jordan in basketball, right?
True.
Like I'm confident that I'm trash in basketball. You feel what I'm saying? But it's also like being confident in the skill set that is appropriate.
True.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely, and I just feel that and we're going to talk about it today. It's a part of the book, but it's an important aspect to walk into any relationship with, professional networking relationship, into your own personal relationships. But you got to be confident about what you're good at, and I think that's a little bit about knowing yourself.
Awareness.
Right.
So you need to have the awareness, and then you tap into those skills, and then you have the confidence. But also, it's not a false sense of confidence. It's actually self-assured, proven, tangible confidence in what you're good at.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I think it's part of, people kind of look out there and they look at the world and they say, everyone else is better than me. Everyone else has something. But again, you've just walked by someone's life and glimpsed in for just a moment. You don't really know where their strengths and weaknesses lie. And so you really probably shouldn't be comparing yourself anyway in that regard. So
Right.
just having kind of you're looking inward and saying, what am I good at? Where can I improve? And you're going to little by little, day by day, feel more and more confident about your ability. So I think my first piece of advice is to stop looking outside of yourself and across the landscape and just only worry and focus on what you can control, which is your own abilities.
Now, so you're doing professional speaking. You're getting out there in front of audiences. You're seeing a common thread. What transpired to you to, as you said, to write a book about it? Or the book? First of all, let's just introduce the book. What's the book?
The book's called A Path Forward. And the subtitle is Examining the Past, Realigning the Present, and Laying the Groundwork for the Future You Deserve.
So what's the overall quick elevator pitch of that topic of that book?
So I feel that a lot of people are stuck.
Yeah.
And I feel they're stuck on something that I believe you and I spoke about before. They feel like they don't understand why they're unhappy.
Yeah.
They don't understand why when they get to that big goal of getting married or having a kid or finishing their degree, they don't understand why they're still feeling that sense of emptiness or loneliness or wanting more. And so we talk about how to address that feeling, that urge, and that, I don't want to say emptiness necessarily, but that sense that there's just something greater out there. Why can't I get to it? And so I want to talk about that from a feeling, that feeling from a sense of how can I use that positively? Because that feeling actually exists to propel us forward,
Yeah.
not to hold us back.
Fuel.
Yeah, I feel like it is. It's that energy that lives inside every human being to try to propel us forward, and I feel that we're misusing that emotion right now, and it's holding a lot of us back. So we talk about that.
It's almost like you're using that fuel wrongly or whatever, and you're going the wrong direction rather than direction. Like you're not using it to propel you; you're using it to keep you stuck.
Absolutely.
Like I like to say sometimes, this is a totally random tangent, but I'm powered by petty. Do you know what that means? Like I got this chip on my shoulder that I got to prove something to people. And so I could negatively prove it and say, I'll show them and just don't do anything. But sometimes I do it to stunt. So, like, being powered by petty is that, like, I have this invisible, maybe sometimes tangible, like, competition with someone. And then I use it as fuel to, like, I'll show them. And then I do whatever I said I was going to do. And then I'm like, haha, I showed you. And sometimes it's not even an audience that's real. It's like some random invisible person. But I usually say, what I'm trying to say is I take something negative and I use it to empower me.
Absolutely. And actually, it's funny. I'm wondering if you read the book, Phil.
No.
Very first chapter talks a little bit about what happens when someone's happy and what happens when someone is angry. And so
Yeah.
I contend that angry helps to fuel us and helps to propel us forward. You know, if someone were to hurt your family member, someone was to yell at your kid at school, you'd probably get on the phone and call the principal, you'd march down there, you'd go do something about it. But if a teacher just gave your kid a pat on the head and said, "Good job, Johnny," you're not going to be propelled to do anything about it. You're just going to clap, and that's the end of it. But how many negative things
propel you to action?
Exactly. So there's anger, this pettiness, whatever's happened to you.
I'm powered by petty.
Exactly. So it's kind of that once again that why bad things happen to good people, and it's to help us move forward.
I mean,
civil rights. Stuck in it.
Civil rights essentially was powered from like anger toward injustice. So what we're going to do, we're going to boycott. And so you're right. Like when it's turned into a powerful tool, it can be. So I want to talk about that in that part about being stuck. A big part of that, which I think we were tied into what we talked about earlier about the confidence. A big part of being stuck is like, you know, I need to make these actions to move forward, right? You got the book, you got the people talking about, okay, I identified what I'm powered by petty. But then I want to bring it back to the confidence part is that, okay, I know I need to make moves. I need to do this next step, but I'm not good enough to make that next step. What are you going to tell that person? And what does the book speak upon, you know, that awareness of self and what you're good at to use to propel you to move forward?
So the book talks about this feeling that we've been kind of dancing around, right? That feeling of, I thought I would be happy once I buy the house. I thought I'd be happy once I finish college, but now I still want more.
Yeah.
It talks about this feeling and as being a normal part of human existence. So I think the first thing to do is to accept that everyone feels this way. A lot of us believe that we're the only ones. I look on Facebook, she's smiling. I look on Instagram, he's laughing. Why can't I feel that way? Everyone else is complete, they're whole, they're happy. Why not me?
Yes.
So the first thing to understand is that it is a universal human experience to feel that sense of seeking and searching and wanting more. I think that sometimes is a good thing. That helps you to just that alone, knowing that other people are having that common human experience is a good thing.
Right.
Okay. So that's the first piece. And then the second piece is to ask yourself, why do I feel this way? And what happens when you're seeking and searching? What happens is progress. And that's flat out the basis of this book is progress. When I learned to walk, it wasn't enough. I wanted to jump. And when I learned to jump, it wasn't enough. I wanted to learn to climb. Always wanting more, always wanting to be better and bigger. This is helping the human race. And not just today, Phil, but we're talking for millennia. For thousands of years, the human race, the reason we were able to tame the animals and the reason we were able to conquer the earth was because we did something positive with that feeling. It's not a negative thing that's happening to us. It's the positive. It's progress.
Yeah, but and there's no but, because I totally agree with that. But I want to talk to the person that says, okay, I know the next level. I know what's greater. I know that we need to progress, but I'm not good enough to progress. I don't have the skills to progress. I don't have the confidence to progress. How are we going to instill that beyond just saying, well, history's done it? What do you tell to the micro level? What do you tell to the individual, like, okay, you know what you need to do to progress. You know what's greater, but you're not confident about it. What some things or tips or ways to say, okay, you know, get confident. I don't know.
Get started. Yeah,
get started. Get started. Yeah, to get started. I like that. Yeah.
So I actually have there's a chapter in this book that's called Cookies and Confidence.
Yes.
Okay, and this has it's a little story, but I think it answers your question perfectly.
Yeah.
And I say to the reader, how did people make cookies in 1985, in 1992? How did we make cookies? With our parent, we measured the flour. If we didn't have the flour, we went to the store. We got the flour off the shelf, right? We measured the butter. We stirred it in the pot. So there were a lot of little wins. Every time that you successfully measured flour, someone said, "Good job, Phil." And whenever you went to the shelf where the flour was at and you pulled it off, someone said, "Good job, Phil." When you cracked the eggs without any shell, they said, "Good job, Phil." And how many attaboys did you get for baking cookies in the 1980s and the 1990s? Today, how do we make cookies? Your parent goes to the store. It's pre-made. It's already on the shelf. It's already cut. The parent pulls out the Toll House. They pull it out of the packaging, and they pop it right in the oven. You have robbed so many people of so many chances for an attaboy. So sometimes progress will also hold us back. And I think that we can talk about this in a lot of different ways, right? So whereas a child might have spent half his day making cookies, baking cookies, cleaning up for cookies and hearing, "Good job, good job, good job," the parent now says, "The oven is too hot. Stand back. You don't need to stir it. Stand back." we've robbed our chances at a
And
lot
then
of
and,
little
and,
wins.
and the kids don't get the toolkit, and they don't get the instructions on how to do it themselves.
Exactly.
You
And
know,
so even worse, Phil, this is the worst thing I've identified, is that when you didn't hear attaboy, attaboy all day, the next day you go to school and you do something wrong, all you've heard is bad job. So how many aw shucks, how many attaboys does it take to overpower one aw shucks?
well, I mean, they say that usually your mind, we're negative minded in the first place, so we attach to the negative rather than the compliments. So you have to have more confidence. You have to have more compliments than negative because it needs to outweigh. Like, I
Absolutely.
feel like for every all shucks, you need like 5 attaboys.
Exactly.
So if you don't get that many, then you're already in a hole. You're already in what we call like a confidence deficit.
Exactly. And so what I say in the book is that, confidence breeds confidence.
Yeah.
Every time that you did something right, someone patted you on the back, they said good job. People enjoyed the cookies that Phil made, and that's why they all felt good about it. You maybe handed them out to friends and neighbors. But today you've robbed people of that chance. And so sometimes what I'm going to say is that you have to take a look at where you're investing your time and asking yourself, are those shortcuts really worth it? I contend that sometimes these shortcuts are the reason that we don't feel confident. Even I think about as a child being sat in the front seat with a map, and my parents asking me, how do we get to Kmart? By looking
Yes.
at the map. And so by, turn left here, turn left there. Even if I made a mistake, we just backed up. But that GPS system now robs us of the opportunity to
So,
feel good about ourselves.
So I'm hearing a contradiction though, but I'm hearing like we're always trying to progress, but as we progress, we've given ourselves shortcuts. So that's kind of
Well,
it's a
again,
paradoxical thing. Like we want to get better and we want to get life easier and we want to do things that make our lives easier, right? Like I don't need to deliver food. I got the robot to deliver my food,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then because the robot's delivering food, then someone's not doing a job. It's gone. So it's
but
like
new jobs exist.
I guess
but
so.
my-
That's true.
My question is, so then in what ways, you have kids at home or, even for an adult, it doesn't matter if we're talking about kids or an adult, but how do you go about getting your attaboys then? Where are you
Yeah.
building in opportunities to do those things? So what I say in the book is that we need to have a do good list. We need to have a list where we're going to build it and say, I know next week I need to get a jolt of confidence. I know next week I need to get a pat on the back. And so I'm going to bring somebody the candy they like. I'm going to
Yeah.
pick up
Yeah.
a bag off the ocean floor, whatever it is. I'm going to do something to make sure that I'm getting the recognition that I need in order to grow and feel confident. So this is, now what we've talked about just now is more high level, like in general, right? But you're asking me about confidence in a skill set.
Yeah, that's us. And I'm thinking as you're going, and my mind was already thinking about, okay, so let's not just go to the end of being a confident speaker. Where are you getting your attaboys? So we got to practice, and
Yes.
we got to set those, as you said, the cookies.
Mhm.
You got to set, instead of just doing the fast forward, like here I talk in front of people. It's like, what are some small instances? So for instance, if we're working with a kid on college, like what are you doing to get yourself in front of people on a small scale? Are you volunteering? Are you raising your hand in class and answering that one question? Like maybe that's your one confidence builder. It's like, you go to class and it's a normal big class with 30 kids. Did you just sit there quietly the whole time, or did you force yourself to get out of your comfort zone and ask one question to the professor in front of everybody? Which could be a positive part is that maybe you asked a question that someone else wanted to ask, and maybe someone comes up to you after class and say, thank you for asking. I was really shy. I'm glad you did it. That's one. Then group projects. We all have a group project. Did you make
Yes.
sure that you had a speaking part? Like everyone that did the PowerPoint, did you, when you're doing a class project, did you make sure that you read off of 2 slides
True.
and force yourself to talk off of 2 slides? And you're right, like giving yourself little mini attaboy things instead of just saying, I graduated college with no public speaking skills.
Yep. And so I think you're right. I think that, first of all, going back to my original point, we all have to realize that we need this. We all
Yeah.
absolutely need this. And so what happens is if you get that confidence at home, when you go into school, someone that's confident at home because they keep getting the attaboy goes to school, how do they perform at school?
Yeah.
Even better, right? Because they think that they're a good person. So when something goes wrong, it's not their identity. Something went wrong at school, it's not my identity because I just got 12 attaboys at home. I know I'm a good person. I just
Yeah.
made a mistake. So you have to realize that starts to build your identity. So you're right. You have to find ways, and I think we have to acknowledge that we need these things. And even maybe Phil is, and I understand we're a little older, but maybe to reach out and tell people, I'm really looking for ways to become better at this particular skill set. Can you give me some ways? So I think even asking for help might be part of this.
So, I mean, obviously our brain is our most powerful tool,
Yes.
and sometimes it can backfire on us, or as you said, we can use it as a motivation, right? And sometimes I like what you said is that our brain, our anger can trick us, we can
Yes.
propel us. But so I see there you said that sometimes our brain can even trick us into action. What do you mean by that? Like, what's that mean, and how would you explain that to someone?
Sure. So the book talks a lot about fulfilling our needs, right? So everyone has these needs, right? There's like 8 needs. You need to eat, you need to drink, you need to expel
Yeah.
waste, you need to sleep, you need,
Yeah.
we need companionship, this kind of stuff, right? And so how do we make sure that these things happen? Our brain tricks us into getting these things done. Just like we might trick a little child or tell a little white lie to a child, right? So you don't tell a child, eat all your vegetables because you need riboflavin. A child will say, what does that mean? But the child,
What's what?
You can't tell a child to eat his vegetables because you need riboflavin.
What's riboflavin?
It's a vitamin.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay, so but instead you can say because the Easter Bunny's watching and you're not going to get any candy.
Yeah,
So
I do that. Yeah.
That's more compelling for a child. Well, the brain does the same thing to us, such as what you just said, Phil. It helps you, it tricks you into being petty, to seeing something, to singling something out, so that you go out and you take action.
Yeah.
That's what the brain does. It tricks us all the time. We don't
Yeah.
see things. Think about being in love, Phil. Sometimes somebody has maybe some not so wonderful tendencies, but because you're in love with them, the brain tricks you and says, "Don't look at that. Just only look at this."
Yeah, I
other
mean, your
thing."
brain is a filter. It sees what it wants to see, or you figure out what you want to see. And then, as you said, right, like you can, as I said earlier, you can have an imaginary friend or imaginary enemy, rival. There's a rival, it's an imaginary rival. There's like literally, I think I'm the opposite. I think many people out there in the world have an imaginary friend, and I have an I have an imaginary rival, like,
Nice.
like, someone I'm like trying to beat, and that person does everything that I want to do, but better than me. And so then I try to beat that person.
But
That's
what works for
imaginary.
you?
I need to have a name for him. What would that guy's name be?
Rufus?
All right. Screw you, Rufus. Dog, I got a new enemy, y'all. Rufus.
Watch out, Rufus.
Watch
Phil's
out,
here.
Rufus. Oh, snap. Watch out, Rufus.
But I wanted to
What's
bring,
his last name? Rufus Pettygrass.
Okay, I like that.
Because he's petty, too.
Yeah.
All right. That's my alter ego, too. I got a new nickname. Illphil, a.k.a. Rufus Pettygrass.
That's going to be a longer introduction now going
Yes. So, but it tricks you.
forward.
So
But
go back.
I wanted to point something else out. We have some universal, I've been talking about this, these universal emotions, these universal needs.
Yeah.
We also have some universal downfalls. And one of them, Phil, I know you're going to understand what I'm talking about, and that's being right. Have you ever noticed that people have an internal desire to be right? They really, really, when they get something, someone says you're wrong about that, they go back and forth.
I think it's
like,
an innate defense mechanism, because a lot of people are innately defensive. Now there's a lot of people that are easier to take feedback, so I think there's levels to that. There's
Yeah.
levels to that defensiveness. Like, I've met people in my life where, like, I swear to God, I don't even want to argue with this person no more because they'll never back down and they'll never listen. But then there's people that are like a little bit like, okay, at first they'll be like, no, I wasn't wrong. And then you give them some facts and stuff and they say, oh, wow, that's a good point. And they lower the defense. But I do agree with you that your first instinct is to
Be
defend,
defensive.
to protect.
But the book explores this, and again, going back to the brain and why the brain does what it does, but why are we so defensive? And so what I contend is, if you think back 1,000 years, 2,000 years ago,
Yeah.
if I walk out into the prairie and I tell my herd or the people I'm walking with, if I tell everyone, let's turn left, and we manage to turn left and we walk into danger, we could die. So being right literally was a way to survive.
It's protected. All this stuff is, fear, being right, all that, I think, is an instinctual thing from innate old protection.
It's back in the day, yeah. It's
you,
old.
you always had
emotions.
to protect yourself, but
But it doesn't exist anymore. But
that's
yet
what
we
I
hold
was
on
about
to
to.
it.
I literally was about to say that, like, the same fear mechanism or the same right mechanism is not needed. Like, we had fight or flight for a reason, because if you walked out of your cave, a dinosaur or a leopard could kill you.
Exactly.
So we always were on edge. But now we still walk around with this fear mechanism, but there's no immediate danger to that level.
And so then we have
And
to
there's
say to ourselves,
and there's no right immediate danger to that level too. Like, we're not going to go. We're arguing back and forth, and your decisions that we make together, we're not going to walk off no cliff now.
exactly.
Because
There's
it's
not
not
a
that
lever
serious.
coming for us. So I
No.
think sometimes, this is one, again, we're talking about being productive, building confidence. And sometimes a part of that is to say the way I feel, it's an old feeling that used to help my ancestors. And I don't need this anymore. I don't have to feel this way. I don't have to
yes.
carry it around. It's baggage I don't need.
Yes.
And so when you feel this instinct to be right, sometimes you can just say, haha, people live through millennia because of this feeling. Good for them. I don't need it. I'm going to just pack it away. It's trash, as you say.
So it's trash, and you have to analyze. I think a lot of things that you're saying and regarding the book comes to what I think is probably one of the most top skill set is self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, for these techniques and everything in your book to move forward, though, it's a lot of introspection. Meaning, like, I mean, for any of these books to be successful, for any points that you bring up in your book to be
Yes.
successful, the reader needs to start reading and identifying what they, what are they doing that exhibits the behavior of the books that the behaviors that you bring up in the book. So, is there a point in the book that has a part about being aware, or if not, it's not in the book, what are some techniques that you think will help with self-awareness? For instance, for me, what's helped with self-awareness is journaling.
Mm-hmm.
Reading the journal and reading about my thoughts and writing things out, or
I like that.
say, or goal setting. Like, okay, I got to beat, what's it, Rufus? You know what I'm saying? What kind of things is Rufus doing? So I write a list of actions to beat Rufus, like actual to-do list. What are some things to help you with self-awareness?
So I do have one piece of this book that talks a little bit about it might seem like a silly story, but I want this to be accessible to everyone. And I talk, and goes right to the point about self-awareness. I
Yeah.
talk about what happens if you wake up in the morning and every morning you go out for a walk, Phil. You're a healthy kind of guy. You go out for a half an hour walk.
Yeah.
One day you go outside and you're just looking at the trees, you're looking at the sun, you're feeling grateful for life, and
Yeah.
you happen to come across a $20 bill laying there. And
Yeah.
You're like, whoa, free $20 bill. This
Yes.
is awesome.
Yes.
Put it in your pocket, you keep walking. Next day you go back out, there's another bill, another $20 bill. And the next day, another $20 bill. Next thing you know, you stop looking at the sky, you stop looking at the trees, you start looking down. You start looking down at the ground. I want more $20 bills. That's what I'm looking for. I'm expecting more money. And so pretty soon, you can't even focus on what you used to like and what you used to love, which was nature and the walk and your health. You start looking at other things. So what I'm asking the reader to do is to ask themselves, what is it in your life that you're so tethered to? And to be self-aware, what is it that you have that's that albatross around your neck that you can't seem to let go of? Is it, I can't be happy without this $20, I want a free $20 bill or I'm not going to be happy. I need my cell phone or I can't be happy. I need my wife to say I'm gorgeous or I'm not going to be happy, et cetera, right? So
that's looking down at the ground. So we need
in this case, again, it's looking down at the ground telling you that you're misplacing your view, right? So some of us are maybe, instead you have two beautiful kids at home, and instead of looking at them, I'm busy watching the basketball game. Or I got a dog at home that's barking, wants to hang out with me, and instead I am worried about something that could happen next week. So my mind, and what I talk about is your mind is elsewhere. We have a magical human condition that allows us to transport our mind elsewhere to something that's not in front of us.
Yeah.
But too often, that thing is dragging us down. So when
Mindfulness.
and so you have to start to think about what is it that makes me happy? What is it that's where are my thoughts at? Where am I spending the majority of my time thinking and feeling, and what am I being distracted from because of maybe something I don't even need?
Well, awareness muscle. Some people are just trash at awareness. Like they literally, you ask them to tell me how they feel, and they're like they can't even use feeling words. So, what are some ways that either you or others use to build up awareness of self? Like, I'm upset. Like, for me, I know I use words. So, if I'm thinking, I'm processing a feeling, I used to not talk. My wife, surprise and prize, like, I could talk to everybody, but when I actually got upset, I become a mute. And I used to just quiet off, and my wife would just poke me, like poking the bear.
Sure.
And you're like, oh, you're not going to talk to me? You're not going to talk to me? And I used to just blow up a little bit. But now I let that spurt out a little bit because I use actual words like, I am upset that you did this, X, Y, and Z, and I'm using words. And that's helping me build awareness. Like, think the awareness of me being upset all the time. So what are some ways that, to build that awareness muscle? How do people, like I said, tangible activities? What are some tangible activities that you and say maybe what do you do?
Book. I mean, I do. I talk about a CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah.
And so what most people do is they, they'll say things, and then later what they'll do is they'll say, okay, I feel this emotion.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to react to the emotion.
Yeah.
And later I'm going to justify the emotion, right? So, like you said, someone pokes me, I scream, and then later I say, well, the reason I screamed, and then you come up with this long explanation.
Yeah.
And what the book asks you to do and what cognitive behavioral therapy asks you to do, and there's some excellent exercises in here,
Yeah.
but it talks about have the, experience the emotion and then stop.
Yeah.
Think about, right? So you're switching up. You're not acting yet. You're thinking first. So you're thinking and then you're acting. So have the emotion, like you said, I'm angry. Then have the thought. Why am I upset?
Yes, process.
Processing, thinking through, taking time, and then only
Yes.
then act. And by the way, to your point about using words, is to say, right now I'm feeling kind of angry. Would you give me 10 minutes to think about why I feel this way, and then I'm going to get back with you. And so I know that sounds maybe to some people silly or funny. Maybe some
Yeah.
people are rolling their eyes right now. But who do you respect more? The adult that's screaming at you, or the adult that says, I need 10 minutes to just to process these emotions. I don't understand where it's coming from, and I'm going to get right back
I
to
mean,
you.
I even heard about. I'm listening to I'm taking a course on happiness and mindfulness and stuff, and they say like even have a emotion log. Like, give me 10 minutes, and then you say I'm angry, and you write out the reasons why you're angry, because the visualization of writing it on a piece of paper helps you slow down and process.
Yeah.
And maybe it can even be like, I'm angry, and it could even, you slow yourself down. You're like, I'm overreacting to this anger because I also had a bad day that my person that angered me
Yes.
had no clue about, or something like that. You know, like I was already on edge anyway. I was just waiting for one more person to piss me off. But I
Yeah.
already sat in traffic for an hour and, dropped something at work and failed to do something at work. So while I was ready to blow up on this person, it was just a result of multiple things, not just that one action that person did to me.
Yep.
So that's why I think that's a great exercise to slow yourself down.
And
Now,
so-
but I think one thing though is I think that I agree. You brought up a really good technique. Is that a lot of people? I used to slow myself down, and I used to just stop what I'm doing. But I think that what's helpful is that you communicated that to the other person, and I didn't do that.
Yep.
So I think that the thing that I really attached as a good new technique, or not a new technique, but one that I think needs to be articulated, is that if you're angry or this emotion has someone else involved, still the communication needs to be there. Like, yo, I need the 10 minutes. I will get back to you, rather than just be quiet for 10 minutes. Because if you're just quiet for 10 minutes, the person that's next to you has no clue why. It's like, damn, you're not going to talk to me? So maybe you say, yo, I am going to talk to you, but give me the 10 minutes.
No, I completely agree with you. And I think it's something that if you're a listener and you're saying to yourself, there's no way I can do that, then there's no listener who needs this more. Because people around you are suffering, your relationships are suffering.
Yeah.
And the thing I always challenge people and ask them is, think of the biggest mistake of your life, the biggest mistake you wish you could take back. Was that a mistake that you thought about for 6 months? Did you pour over data and research in order to make that mistake, or
No.
was it made hastily?
Of course.
It was made hastily. The biggest
mean,
mistakes are made hastily.
Yeah,
So there's no value.
I love that one. Like, you think like anyone's like, yo, like I got arrested or something like that? They're gonna be like, man, for months I thought about how I'm gonna get arrested. You feel me? I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. I never thought about that. Like, think about something really bad that happened to you. It's like, you know what? For months and months, I'm really gonna put myself in this bad situation, and I'm gonna go through with the bad situation. Like, this is perfect. This is the greatest idea ever. I even wrote out a list at 5 o'clock and the time and all that, and who's involved.
So to me,
Yes.
I mean, it's perfect, right? It makes perfect sense that you just slow down, think about what you're saying and what you're doing and your emotions. And sometimes, going back to what Phil was saying, right? So it's cognitive behavioral therapy. Like, where is this emotion coming from? And we talk
Yes.
about that. Where is it coming from? Why do you feel this way? And oftentimes asking yourself, like, why is this important? Why is this important to me? Why do I feel that way? Such as, some people might say, why, my husband didn't tell me that I'm beautiful today. Well, why is that so important? Do you not feel that you're beautiful?
Yeah.
Do you feel that it's not a good relationship? And so maybe that's where you're talking instead of just screaming back and forth at one another.
I love that.
And so maybe having this calm conversation. No conversations ever go anywhere when people are screaming and stuff. So you have to calm yourself down and slow it down a little bit.
Yeah, so, okay, I mean, we jumped all over the place.
Yeah, of course.
We plugged the book. Why'd you even write this book in the first place? Like, what came to about? Like, what was the muse? Muse. Is it muse?
Yes, Muse.
Muse.
So
Moose.
I think years ago, maybe when I was still in college, my aunt is actually a therapist, and I was talking to her, and I said, I really want to write a book. I just love books. I love reading. I
Hey,
love writing.
damn, you wanted to write a book. All
I
right.
wanted to write a book, and she said to me, every one of my clients tell me they want to write a book, every single one. But how many people are sitting at their desk day after day writing? Very, very few. And so I thought it was almost a challenge. And so for years,
Yes, powered by challenges. See,
there you go.
Dan, you got Rufus. See, Rufus is that's my person. So okay, so she said she challenged you. I like that. She's
Yeah.
like, okay, you about it, but I've seen many people do this. And where are you doing to do it?
See, everyone likes to say they're going to write and then they don't. And I've said to myself, Phil, you know what? Do I think that this book is, the best thing that I could ever write? I think it's the best thing I could have written at that time. It's who I was at that time. It's my feelings, my thoughts, the best advice I've given out. And if I was challenged to write it today, I probably would write something a little bit different. and that's fine.
Yeah.
But I knew that I wanted to write one to get it out of the way and to challenge myself. And so now that it's out there, I'm writing new ones.
Now, when you did that first one, did you just start typing, or did you write an outline? Like, I mean, what do people do when they say I'm gonna write a book? Like, do they write on note cards? Like, did you just interview people? Like, where'd you come up with these stories? I got like 10 more questions more
Yes,
about the
writing
process.
books. Yeah, so the way that I did it was I just sat down one day and I started writing a book. I just started writing, and it wasn't even the beginning of the chapter. It was just my thoughts. You know what? Here's what I'm thinking. I have people around me all the time that are coming to me that are unhappy. People asking me why I'm happy and they're not happy, and I started to think about why that is and some of the social forces that are out there. There's chapters on narratives, on social forces, and I just went through and gave some really good advice, and so that's how I did it. And just
So you just
line by
blah.
line.
You just
Blah.
dumped on.
I blah. And I, by the way, have several editors. You know, one is credited in this book, Laura.
That's what I said. So you just first you brain dumped. Then how did you tighten up the brain dump into
This
chapters?
took me 2.5 years, just to let you know.
I love that.
And I mean,
Okay.
I also, Stephen King has a book called On Writing, and I know he said it, and I've heard Jim Carrey say it separately, that if you're not sitting down every day to write, then you're not serious. And so that's what I did. I forced myself 1 hour a day to sit down and write.
So there you go. You almost
Yeah.
did it like someone that's
It's a job.
that's a trainer, but anyone that's committed to their fitness, like you set time aside.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, and the gym, your gym is going to the computer and start typing.
Mm-hmm.
Or did you type or you write it on a piece of paper?
If I was at work and I was like in a meeting, sometimes I would be jotting down notes. But a lot of times
Yeah.
I had set up an area in my house that I would go. I'd close the door. I would turn on smooth jazz because that's what I like, and I
Yeah.
would just sit and I would type. And after I got several hundred pages, I tried to make sense of it and decide how would I lay it out.
Yeah.
And
Instead, it was a Word document just always running,
it was a Google Doc. It was a Google Doc.
just running, and it would just boom, 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 boom.
And then what happened from there was
Yeah.
I started to make sense of my thoughts and putting them into chapters. And then from there, there'd be certain chapters that either weren't long enough or were too long.
Yes.
And I really wanted this not to be the kind of book that you read and said, I can't get through this. So some things I decided to ultimately cut out.
Yeah, and then that's probably we could probably go on a tangent about that. Like you put all this time. Like how do you let go of stuff that I put this time in? I got to cut a whole chapter out. But we'll talk about that another time. But one of the things I do want to, you have some real concrete studies and stories. So like maybe you brain dumped. Did you have to go back after you brain dumped and then maybe read some articles or find some related topics?
Yes, I did. I talk about the part about when you ask people what are they doing or why are they doing it, and they'll say like they always give you reasons and rationales that are very logical. And I contend that we're not logical creatures. We're emotional, and there's tons of research in this book that talks about that. And so that was kind of when I want to make a good point, I just didn't want it to come from Victoria Suarez. I wanted it to come from research and data.
Yeah, that helps. That
yeah.
helps.
I was in and out of EBSCOhost and a lot of the databases and stuff, just pulling research and seeing what would be
Wow.
fun for readers to read. I have Valentine postings and by the way, I have even data in here about what happens when you're single and how do you view yourself, how do you talk about yourself when you think that you're unloved. And data changes day to day as you get into a relationship. So there's all kinds of just really interesting research that's in there,
Yeah.
and making the bigger point. If we can let go of some of these human habits and to lean into some that are just a part of us and learn how to use them.
So you felt you got more confidence as a writer from writing
Absolutely.
and the skill set. Like so basically what was the little cookies for you? What was the small steps? And what are the shortcuts do you think that people are taking as writers that new writers doing nowadays that maybe they didn't have to struggle with back in the day? Besides dipping the pen in ink
Yeah.
and writing and taking it to a press thing, whatever.
Printing press.
Printing press, yeah.
So I think that writers today, because there's so much literature out there,
Yeah.
we've read so much, we've seen so much. Think about back, 300-400 years ago, you just didn't have access to books like you do today.
Right.
And there's stories everywhere, there's podcasts, there's, books on tape, etc. So I wonder if people are recycling material. They're not as original as maybe
Yeah,
they
well, it's
once
harder,
were.
but it's probably hard to be, it's like music. Like everything has like all my favorite rap songs, the beats have samples from other songs that they make the beats for.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we had to pay homage to it. And still, as you said, as a layer of creativity. But it's still, no matter what you're going to do, you're going to pay homage to something else.
Sure. And so you're trying to juggle that between not
Yeah.
wanting to sound like somebody else, and
Yeah.
at the same time, they say that all writers have an audience, right? So even if it's an
Yes.
audience of one, when you're writing, you're like, so-and-so would like to hear this and read this.
Yeah,
And so you
that's
really,
what I do with my podcast.
Yep.
I'd be looking at an imagining audience of one. That's why I got better at public speaking, because I was like, I got at least, when I look at the download numbers, that's like how many people are in a chair. So like if I have like 100 downloads, that means like I talk to 100 people.
True.
So maybe not at the same time though, but you get what I'm saying.
But I think the other thing here, Phil, that we have to remember is this. On podcast 1 wasn't as good as podcast 50 and won't be as good as podcast 500. But
Yeah.
you have to go through the exercise.
Yeah.
People are saying attaboy, right? Even if right now it's only 100 downloads, next week, next month, whenever,
Yeah.
it's going to get better and better. And so I think that a lot of people, to answer your question, are fearful of failing. And they don't realize that everyone is failing. Everyone that is any good at anything has already failed, and they're continuing to pick themselves back up. So
Yeah.
I think that we just have to start early, work often, work hard, and keep going even when things aren't as good as they could be. There's only one way to improve, and that's to go through the exercise of improving.
Yeah.
It's an active verb.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's crazy. You think about just doing something like, who's to say I can't be a podcast host?
Mhm.
Who's to say you can't be an author? Rufus probably told us we couldn't do this stuff.
What does he know?
Rufus don't know nothing. I want you all to I'm gonna make an image. I'm just gonna make a real drawing or a caricature of Rufus, and now we all gonna hate on Rufus together.
That's fine with me.
And be powered. But like I was saying, at the same time, I think that a lot of this is putting yourself in opportunities to get better. I really don't want to dumb down starting a podcast, but it was about as easy as just picking up a mic and recording, and hopefully the recording doesn't sound like trash. And they did the first. They're gonna get better and better, but it's like at least I tried, and then I downloaded it and I uploaded it, and there's nothing to stop me from uploading it. But I did, I've said this in an earlier podcast. I recorded my first episode in December, and I didn't, or thought of the idea of recording the episode in December, and I didn't release my first episode till April. That was months of just me going back and forth, re-editing. I think I said my first intro episode, I said the same. It was only 10 minutes long, 16 minutes. I recorded 16 minutes of content 4 different times. I said that one didn't sound right. That one didn't sound right. So I don't want to also minimize people's experiences about getting started, because it is very scary. I don't know. There was no one even it was even a timetable on my own. No one told me release a podcast by Monday. I could have just never did it. But I kept on being like, I'll do it next week. I'll do it next week. Or, it doesn't sound good enough. It's not perfect yet. And then one day I was like, I'm just going to release this, John. I don't care. And I did it.
It's funny. There's a story in the book actually about it's a tall tale, but it's about a woman called Emma Gunna. Emma, get it? I'm a Gunna. And so all that's all her story.
That's also a rap name, Gunna.
There you go, Emma Gunna.
Bang, bang.
That's all her story is all, next week, next month, I will, but not right now. And so do you want to live a life of Emma Gunna, or do you want to get up and start making things happen? And I think just realizing no one else can do it for you. You don't need anyone else's help. Just get up and start living the life. So if you want to write, then sit down and write. You want to rap, then go out and rap. You want to do a podcast, start talking. So, and every single day you should wake up and be focused on that. I think it's also important to say, nobody's going to be good at everything, but you got to pick 1 or 2 things you really want to try and start marching towards it. It's okay to not be the best, right? We have Olympics now. We've got all these top tier whatever, and there are a lot of people that are mediocre, and you have to just if you're going to be okay, that's okay.
Be the best okay though.
Yeah. If it's be good for what you do.
Exactly, that's what I was saying. Be the best okay you can be. Be the best at your measuring stick. You may be mediocre, but maybe in your high school you're the best in your high school. And you don't know your audience. You don't know the pond that you're in. In my lane, I'm the best podcaster I know. But I'm comparing myself to nobody. But then at the same time, I'm not comparing myself to Joe Rogan or people that have the elite level podcast. It's just you just kind of set your own stage and stay in your own lane. Yeah. But now we got 2 people we hate on now. So we got Rufus and we got Emma Gunna.
Okay, Emma Gunna.
I feel like Emma Gunna and Rufus are dating each other.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, they make a good couple.
Yeah, because they correlate. They correlate. You know what I'm saying? Rufus just hates on your stuff, and then Emma tells you to do it later. So they're both I feel like we should just make a crew of people that hate on your dreams. And it's Emma Gunna and Rufus Pettygrass.
Pettygrass, that's right.
It's Pettygrass. So we're coming to the point of my show where we kind of wrap it up. This is obviously, I don't even know how many questions we hit. We hit a couple of questions that I had. We're all over the place. I think that only means that we need to do a part 2. I think we're going to do a part 2. We're just going to come back in here in the studio and do a part 2. I don't even know, maybe be a different subject.
Possibly, yes.
We got so much content, but this is the part of the show called Shot for Shot. Have you listened to the podcast before?
Negative.
See, look at it. You're on my podcast, never listen. I have over almost 100 episodes. and now you're gonna be on him. But that's Rufus. That's Rufus out there.
Uh-oh.
You're hanging out with Rufus and listening, not listening to my podcast. But shot for shot is you get to ask me any question you want, random question. I get to ask you any random question I want. It has nothing to do with the podcast, and then just answer truthfully, kind of like truth or dare, but there's no dare part. So you want to go first? I go first.
Okay, so, Wendy's now has a chocolate and a vanilla Frosty. So what are you thinking, Phil? Chocolate or vanilla?
That's actually, that's a good question to hit me with. Dang. Chocolate, and then I dip the fries in it because that's better.
That's how I do it.
I don't think you dip fries in vanilla.
No, you don't.
I don't think that matches. But we all know that that's the superior Frosty. And that Frosty is a very interesting concept in first place. 'Cause I don't really think, is it a milkshake? But it's not really. Mm-hmm. It's kind of similar to the Blizzard at
Dairy Queen.
Dairy Queen. Like, you don't know what consistency it really is. Because they flip it upside down, but then it's like not really ice cream. Very, very strange. But yeah, it's definitely chocolate. That was an easy answer. That was an easy question.
Oh.
You might, I might give you another one. But here's mine for you. So, we have the Adventures Foodie Club, and you've been exposed to new food.
Yes, I have.
So, what is one food that I can expose that you said I will absolutely not eat, and I'm gonna try to make you eat it? What's one thing that you really say, oh my God, I'm never gonna eat that, and I'm gonna try to find a way, like the best one or something like that, or even just tangibly something that you
like
just,
an alligator.
Okay, alligator bites. Okay, that's it. That's it. Is that the one? Alligator?
Yes, that's disgusting. I won't eat it.
You will never try alligator bites. Do you like fish sticks?
No, I hate all seafood.
Okay, so seafood in general. Okay.
Yes, it's
So I
gross.
need to find the best seafood and get you to try at least one bite of something. Have you ever had scallops?
No,
Shrimps?
no.
Lobster?
No.
Crabs?
I've smelled them.
What is okay, this is my second follow-up because now the whole world knows you hate seafood.
That's true.
So what is the what did you ever taste it and like made you sick and throw up, or what don't you like about the seafood?
It's the stench.
So if I get good smelling seafood, you eat it.
Yeah, I haven't smelled it yet.
So like you smell the seafood and it's like I don't want this.
No, like you walk in a restaurant and you're like, oh no, it's
The
seafood.
restaurant stinks.
Every restaurant that I go to that has seafood, it's
But
always
you've
the
been
worst.
but you've been to a steakhouse.
Yes. And
But
then
they
when
have
walk
shrimp on
by-
the menu.
Yeah, they walk by with shrimp. I always turn my head. I'm like, what's that?
So in that like a barbecue place and you smell all the barbecue food,
Yes.
if you smell the seafood, it distracts from the
Yes.
All right, see, this is interesting. I'll have to find some. All right, listeners, tell me out there, if you listen to the podcast, please tell me this is the main criteria. Find a seafood restaurant that doesn't stink, that actually that smells like something like normal. I'm actually going to go to a seafood restaurant and see if it actually smells. I probably believe you do. I believe you.
No.
Okay, give me another hard question because that was actually a pretty in-depth question. Now I got to find out a way for you to eat seafood.
Okay, let's say like, if you had one guest you'd love to have on your podcast that you think you can never invite on,
Never,
that's a challenge.
never invite on
Or
like as.
meaning like they'll never accept your invitation.
Oh, they're beyond my level.
Yes.
I already discussed this already. I already know. That's why I'm gonna tell you who.
Who?
I already know. It's 3 people. It's J. Cole, the rapper J. Cole, Big Crit, and Kendrick Lamar. My Mount Rushmore 3, the trilogy of rappers.
Okay, we're gonna get one of them on here.
I know. I'm gonna add them. I did it one time. I just added them. I say, yo, J. Cole, Big Crit, and Kendrick, please, can you be on my podcast one
And
time?
then?
Nothing. I mean,
Oh,
crickets.
they probably didn't hear you.
No,
Maybe they were traveling
They won't never
internationally.
hear me. So that's my main and the reason why I'll tell you the reason why. 1, they're my favorite artists. 2, they don't just rap like blah blah blah. They don't mumble rap. They actually say things in their songs. J. Cole particularly, he's like went to college. He's basically J. Cole is the type of person that was like your friend in high school that happened to be a rapper. Like meaning he's super relatable. Like he was just a normal guy. He got famous and he raps about his being famous. You know what I'm saying? Like he's like he just raps like, oh, now I was in high school doing this and now I'm doing this, and he's like, I don't talk about money. I'm just like I'm famous now. It's kind of weird. So it's basically like he's your normal average guy. So
Okay.
and I've listened to him. I listened to him talk outside of rapping, and he's like super educated. I mean, I was not just saying super educated, but like, he has such really good thoughts on culture and society and
That's awesome.
stuff like that. So I want him. And then basically, Big Crit is the same way. He went to college and all that, and he's the normal guy too. But he dropped out of college to pursue music. And then Kendrick, I don't even know about Kendrick's education, but Kendrick's just dope. So those are people I would love to have on my podcast. And most honestly, I wouldn't even ask him music questions.
What about Pusha T?
Well, Pusha T, I already saw Pusha. I don't know. I mean, me and Pusha can't really relate because he like really did sell drugs.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, so like.
I'm unfamiliar with.
Yeah, so Pusha would be like cool, but the reason why I want J. Cole, mainly J. Cole and Crit, is because I would just talk about like high school and like rapping while you went to college. Like, that's cool to me. Like how they were in college like everyone else. They went to college like me, but they had career goals of rapping. So that's why I would want them on my show. As opposed to Pusha T, who probably just sold drugs and then became a rapper.
See, well then again, this is revealing your values.
It's education and being a good rapper. Those are my
values.
values.
Side hustle.
Yes.
That's what you respect.
Yeah. I also respect someone. I like turn up music too. I like rap that makes just turn up. But I definitely do take appreciation and listen to like songs that either Crit or Cole sing, where like if I really like wrote them as a paper, I was like, wow, that's like poetry, and they actually said something that had meaning, like like the world's not fair kind of like there's real content in their music that like you could take it and put it in an English poetry class and say, what was the author trying to tell you, and what does it say about the greater world? So it's like there's actual content.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting.
Yeah, but then there's also just turn up like bang bang. I don't care. I'm selling drugs. I like that kind of stuff too.
Okay, well.
I mean that's like I listen to that and then I drive my little like family car. I look in the back seat and I have like 2 car seats and I'm like, yo, I'm suburban trapping over here, yo. Like
that's okay.
Like it's crazy. Sometimes I do that. Like I turn up to like that kind of music and I'm like, I look in the back seat. I'm like, I'm literally not living this life that I'm listening to the music. But that's kind of. I bet if I did a poll, I mean, a lot of my friends do that too. They'd be turning up and I'm like, we're like in the suburbs with kids now.
Well,
like that.
Let me tell you, there's a little story in this book. Speaking of music, about what's his name, Bob Ritchie, also known as Kid Rock. So he talks about his journey as a father as well. There's a little funny story in there about that.
Kid Rock corny.
I'm just saying, you don't think Kid
Rock
does the thing
why
he
I
does
think
as a
Kid
father.
Rock's corny. Kid Rock don't know what to decide what he is. Like, is he a rapper or not? The Bob. Remember, he had that Bob with the Bob phase, but then he does like this, like, I'm a country boy from. First of all, Michigan's not even country.
It's kind of country.
It's like, but it's still the Yankees. They're up north. What?
Yeah.
If we look in the Civil War, wasn't Michigan in the Union?
They're up north, yeah.
But this damn like wearing Confederate flags and stuff like he in the old Dixie. That don't make no sense to me. Kid Rock, you don't make no sense. I don't want you on my podcast. I want J. Cole.
But he's in my book.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Did you quote him?
I do. I have quotes in there from him.
Did you meet him?
I did not meet him, no.
I want you to meet him, and next time you meet him, and say you're weird.
Okay, I will let you know.
And then
I'll ask him to be on the podcast.
Okay, then I'll have him. Actually, if Kid Rock wants to be on my podcast,
you'll let it happen.
Yeah, but I'll just kind of troll him and ask him very hard questions.
Okay, good.
And then I'll let Rufus out a little bit, and then I'll bring it back with a positive ending.
Good.
That was a really good. I love that shot for shot. That's probably one of my favorite shots for shots.
Good.
Shout out to you. All right, so the platform is yours. This is the part of the episode. We're about to wrap up, and we definitely gonna have to do another one. This is really good. I think this is one of my favorite podcasts because we actually came prepared, and we got this cool room that we're doing it in, and we look like I'm actually told you talks about ice cream and Frosties, but the stage is yours. So this is the part of my show that called shout outs and plugs. So you shout out to whoever you want. And then plugs are the things that you're working on. But when you do these plugs, make sure that you give me the information of these plugs so that I can put it in the show notes and the listeners can follow up with you. Like, for instance, your book. I'm going to make sure to put the book where you can purchase the book in the show notes so that people can buy the book.
Absolutely.
But shout outs and plugs. The stage is yours.
Yeah, I spent the whole weekend with my family, so I have to say shout out to my family up in northeastern Pennsylvania, speaking of being in the country. They're from the Union as well up there in Pennsylvania, yes. But it is certainly country.
Yeah, it's
country. Let me tell you what. And, of course, I have to shout out to my dad specifically because he's the one first time took me to a bookstore, told me to fill up a box of books and to have a good time. And ever since then, I've been obsessed with reading, so I really do appreciate it. And as far as plugs, I wanted to just mention that we do have a new book that we're working on about college admissions and preparing young people to go off to college and be successful, especially students that maybe have been lagging behind in middle school and high school. So look for that book. Hopefully we'll have it out here in the next 8 months or so.
Wow.
Yeah.
So and then the other book is available on Amazon. Where's the other
there's
book?
A Path Forward is available on Amazon. So if you just were to Google or to type in my name and A Path Forward, Victoria Suarez, it'll come right up there for you.
Excellent.
It's very cheap. It's only $7.99.
Nice. And the book will be available in
the show notes.
In the show notes,
Yep.
yeah, I blinked out. Well, Victoria, thank you so much for being on the
Absolutely.
episode. I think this is going to be a great episode. I keep on saying that. And we definitely had to do a part 2. We did a little bit about confidence. We talked about the process of writing a book. Maybe we'll pick another topic related to something else. But this has been great. I'm so glad. I'm going to give a shout out to myself that I'm the aggressive friend that bugged you for months to get on this
Absolutely.
podcast.
Absolutely.
Because this is probably going to be one of my best ones. So shout out to myself for bugging you. But thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to releasing this, and also just your progress with your new book. Definitely is going to be something as a resource that I'm probably going to have in my office to help with students that are transitioning to college. I think that's a wonderful thing.
Thank you.
To do, and I think that's also a wonderful way to share information, because a lot of people need this information, regardless if it's already out there, it's a subject that's already been talked about. I think the more resources, the better. I think also different types of voices with that same message is the better, and different lanes where people can find this information is the better. So when you said earlier, like, how can you put your own twist on it? I think that you're right. All the subjects we've written about have been written about, but I think if it comes from a different voice, it hits a different audience. And I think that's the main thing about sharing information. Like, someone probably already did like 10 episodes about this pod, but no one talked about Rufus. So
True.
this is the only episode you'll find about that. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
It's been a pleasure, and I hope you enjoy it. Please like and subscribe The Positive Filter, as well as leave a question for The Positive Filter. You can call them and leave a voicemail, or call them, but call the podcast. It's 571-336-6560. That's 571-336-6560. Or leave a question on the Facebook or the Instagram or the Twitters. Positive Filter, add Positive Filter. So thank you very much. I hope you like this episode. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to Positive Filter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity of Movement. Thanks for listening.